Welcome back to Mimo's Arcade. Our little game this time is Moonworks, the Herbalist. It's sort of like a spin-off to the visual novel Everlasting Summer, except it only features one of the heroines that you actually play as, named Slaviana, or Slavia for short. Here, you're figuring out which ingredients can be brewed together to make potions and even meals that you can sell at the market, in order to afford apples and supplies for even more alchemy. The reason I single out apples is because they are the only food Slavia is allowed to eat in this game, so that she doesn't get tired as easily going about her daily routine. Why? Because her grandmother said so. Who, by the way, is the person Slavia is trying to find upon learning she went missing when she came to visit her for the summer. So Slavia learning to become a herbalist is somehow going to help her discover what happened to her sweet little babushka. Okay, except here's the problem. Slavia never ends up finding her, spoilers, and all her efforts end up not mattering in the end. She doesn't even so much as mention her. Wow, great storytelling? Yeah, as far as the narrative goes, there may as well have not been one in this case. But okay, since this technically isn't a visual novel, the story is one thing. How's the gameplay? Thankfully, that's what pulls this charmingly odd little game through for the most part. It's a strategy point-and-click game where you harvest herbs, flowers, and berries, as well as obtaining cooking items and ingredients to narrow down which combinations of these things work together and which of them don't. It's easily the most engaging part of the game. The edible and poisonous plants are randomized with every new playthrough, which I like because it adds to the replayability and wonder as to what new concoctions you can come up with next. Potions themselves have 4 levels, with there being 27 possibilities in total, regardless of the herbs used. And Slavia can drink some of the 4th level potions, each one with their own unique effect on her. They're all cool for sure, but I kind of wish that they could all affect the gameplay in some way, and not just be relegated to cutscenes and CGs. Strategy, however, is everything in the Herbalist. Pretty much anything you do, from conjuring up concoctions to gathering supplies, takes up 5 to 10 of your stamina. If you have an apple, which Slavia eats one of every morning upon waking up, you don't get to do this yourself, you'll normally start each day with 100 stamina. However, if you consistently buy and eat apples every morning, you'll get the occasional raise to 300 stamina. Otherwise, if you starve Slavia, you'll start each day with only 25 stamina. The only activities that won't use stamina are doing business at the marketplace and playing with your cat. In fact, your cat actually helps to raise your stamina. The best this little kitty can do is raise it up to 15 at the most. Be sure, however, to pay attention to its behavior before deciding whether or not to play with it. Be aware, it can potentially deplete your stamina too. It's important to consider where to allocate your labor each day, depending on your goals. And there will be times where you'll be forced to starve Slavia in favor of stocking up on other things you immediately need. If Slavia goes hungry for too long, she'll get a boost from Cthulhu the first time. I personally haven't gotten a game over, and I don't even know if you can, but I've gone for many days without feeding her and didn't suffer any consequences. I think having that survival aspect would have justified your low stats and added to the strategy. This is especially evident in the beginning, as money is somewhat hard to come by until you start making higher level potions and bigger meals. Otherwise, it's just kind of frustrating. Slavia herself is a very pleasant character. She was actually my second favorite heroine in Everlasting Summer, and I'm not even really a fan of the visual novel, to be honest. She was definitely a good pick for something like this, as she's adventurous, persevering, and full of curiosity. The music is lovely. It's got that mystical and medieval vibe to it. I swear I can hear some influence from those old interactive storybooks too, if you remember those. Much like the game, it's very relaxing and meditative to listen to. Some of the CGs in the game are rather suggestive. I honestly don't mind stuff like that in games, but it nevertheless has to make some sense, right? Quite frankly, it doesn't fit the spirit of this cute game, which has absolutely no romance or anything sensual at all. There's even a tentacle reference, which is a big no-no. Just because you're taking inspiration from anime doesn't mean you necessarily have to include all its tropes. Another thing I found kind of odd is that certain events you imagine would activate upon doing something special don't actually occur until later in the game. I think the game runs under the assumption that new players will take more time to unlock everything. In reality, the game shouldn't take that long to complete, even for beginners. Several hours, give or take. It's a reasonable length, I'd say. I played the game in both English and Russian, but you definitely don't have to play in both languages in order to get the full story or anything like that. Both versions of the game are exactly the same. Overall, it's a nice little puzzle that's easy to grasp and navigate. It could have benefited from more depth, considering games like Dissidia that expand on this kind of gameplay, but sometimes simplicity is just enough to help you wind down for the day. You can get the Herbalist on Steam for $6.49 Canadian, or on mobile for free. I say try the mobile version first, and if you like it enough, go for the Steam version, where they update with mods, events, and other languages. Have fun!